right, welcome everybody. We are here today to talk about something that we have all been guilty of at one point or another in our lives, and it's ethnocentricity. First, we're going to talk about what the definition of ethnocentrism is. Then we'll discuss some of the cultural differences that are at the root of ethnocentric behavior. And finally, we'll talk about some things that we can do to recognize our own ethnocentric tendencies and what we can do to help. First off, let's talk about the definition of ethnocentrism. Now imagine that you're sitting at a dining room table and somebody has just prepared you a meal and you're eating this meal and you're enjoying the first few bites and they ask you if you're enjoying it. And with your mouth full, you smile and give the A-OK. And they look back at you with a look of disgust. Would you be offended, or are you being offensive? Well, it depends. Here in America, this means A-OK, I approve, it's good. However, in France, this means zero, or worthless. Or if you're sitting at a table in Turkey, it implies that you're a homosexual or an asshole. Now, where ethnocentrism comes into play is when you believe that your definition and how you feel about this symbol is right and everybody else is wrong. Now, ethnocentrism isn't anything new. It was first coined in 1906 by William Sumner. I read a research paper, a business and management research paper written by Diane Weinstein. And she wrote it for Cobalt Solutions. And the definition of ethnocentrism is it's an evaluative bias in favor of one's own group and the perception of outgroups as being inferior. Now what that means is that we judge other people in relation to our own values, our own standards, and our own beliefs, assuming and perceiving that their values, standards, and beliefs are inferior or wrong. Now consider this. If you took a survey of Americans and asked them what's the best country in the world, the majority of Americans are going to answer America. Well, if you took that same survey in Greece or in New Zealand, would their answer be the same? Probably not. But who's right? Now let's discuss some of the cultural differences that are at the root of ethnocentric behavior. Cultural differences come in all shapes and sizes, and there are many forms. Your group may be formed by religious beliefs or your family values, what city you're from, what country you're from, your sexual orientation, your race, your ethnic background, or even your socioeconomic background. Some cultural differences are very minor. For example, let's say it's a hot summer day and I go to the park and I'm dressed in my flip-flops and my shorts and a tank top. And I go and sit on a park bench. And I'm sitting next to a Muslim woman who is dressed in head to toe, all black. And all you can see is her eyes. Is she going to judge me and say that I should put more clothes on? Am I going to judge her and think, what are you doing wearing all that black and it's a hot summer day? And there again, who's right? In another example, at my house, I wear my shoes in the house all the time. I'm on my feet all day long. It's more comfortable. There's inevitably going to be something sticky on the floor at my house from my kids. And I'd rather have that sticky on my shoes than on my socks. But again, if I were in Japan and wore my dirty shoes into somebody's house, it'd be highly offensive. There again, my choice, their choice, who's right, who's wrong. And then there's also more significant cultural differences, the type of thing that you hear about on the news. For example, the debate over same-sex marriage, or the idea that all Muslims are terrorists, when in actuality, the vast majority of terrorists are not Muslim. There's also religious and ethnic genocide. And of course, historically, we must recognize the ethnocentric roots of events such as the Holocaust or slavery. Finally, we need to talk about the importance of recognizing your own ethnocentric tendencies and what you can do to kind of help prevent some of that or counteract it. First of all, it's human nature to be ethnocentric. There's psychological factors that drive us to want to be part of a group, to want to be included, to be accepted, to have relational unity with people that are like ourselves. And not only do we want to be part of a group, but we want to be part of the right group, the correct group. But inherently, if there's a correct group, there must be incorrect groups, which is where it all stems from. In this country, the diversity is great. And in order to get along and have success in your life, to recognize that you may or may not look at people as better than you or inferior to you, it is helpful for you to recognize the differences. It will help you in your education, your relationships, your career. And these days, technology is just bringing the world closer together. So we deal with international things and international business, and the internet brings everybody together. So the first thing you have to do is recognize that everyone has ethnocentric tendencies. And the most valuable thing you can do for yourself is to educate yourself. For example, whenever it's relevant. For example, if you are a traveler, if you travel abroad, you would be prudent to study before you go, to learn about their values, their culture, their table manners, the way they use their hands, any sort of traditions that they have. Because generally, people do not travel to show off their own culture. They travel to learn about others. And I'm not saying that you have to accept or conform to anybody else's beliefs or culture or religion, but to approach interactions with an open mind, assuming that you may be able to learn something, rather than assuming that you know it all and there's nothing left to learn. The point is to keep an open mind. In conclusion, we have talked about the definition of ethnocentrism. We have discussed some of the cultural differences that are the root of ethnocentric behavior. And we have talked about things that we can do to help ourselves counteract our own ethnocentric tendencies. I appreciate everybody's time. Thank you for coming. I hope you learned something and maybe enjoyed my presentation. And that's a wrap. That's all, folks.